Hey players, how you doing? Welcome back to Player's Guide. This week I'll be talking about the life cycle of game collecting. So I briefly touched upon this in the previous GameCube collecting episode, and it's something I'd like to address before I do any more videos that are based around collecting for specific consoles. Just so some of you, if you don't already understand this, understand the concept of the life cycle of collecting, because it's very important to know this in order to get those rare games before they jump in value and kind of get the deals on the consoles that are not so hot to collect for. This cycle seems to repeat itself. Now, what happens after the cycle? Well, because it's not really a complete cycle, we don't really know. So I'm probably going to make another video on that as well. So the first part of the video game collecting life cycle is the new game. So a game is first released, it's brand new, it hits major retailers and online stores. So maybe you're buying it from an EB Games or a GameStop or Toys R Us or Walmart, or you're purchasing it online at Amazon, wherever you buy your new games. It's a new game. Yeah, they're expensive. They're not cheap. So it's important to buy the games that are from franchises that are most important to you, that you want to play right from the get-go. A lot of the other stuff, it's a good idea to wait a couple months because they drop $20 in price a lot of times after the game's been out 3 months, and you can still buy it brand new. Another thing to look for when purchasing new games is add-ons such as DLC or other free content that you might be able to get by pre-ordering or getting the day one release of the game. The second stage of the video game collecting life cycle is last generation. So right now, last generation would be the PS3 or the Xbox 360 or the Wii U. And I mentioned before, these are all great consoles to collect for in 2019 because what has happened is after the current gen has already been out for, 3, 4 years, or even longer, is that last gen uh, really depreciates in value quickly. And so the stages of this cycle are you can buy those games a lot of times when they're in clearance bins or they're getting marked down or liquidated out of a lot of major retailers like a Walmart or a Best Buy or wherever. And you can find some good deals on them. The other way you're finding good deals on those games is because now there's an abundance of used copies out there. So some of these popular titles that get new releases every year are obviously not popular anymore. Those ones are gonna be dirt cheap. This is one of the best times if you know what you're looking for, if you know what you want to really start scooping up the popular titles and the rare titles, because you're ahead of the game at this point. Used game stores that maybe they used to have a wall of their new titles that just came in, and now these titles are making their way towards the back of the store or somewhere into a value bin or somewhere else where they're not as sought after. So in the last gen stage of the video game life cycle collecting, we've seen the most significant drop in price, even on games that are still new in their shrink wrap. This next stage is the older generation stage, where the games are older than that. And they will at first depreciate even more in value to the point where people are starting to give these games away. And that's where the last gen and older gen kind of, they meet. And the games are essentially at their lowest value, but beginning to creep up some of the more sought after or rarer titles in value. So if you haven't picked up some of those rare titles from the last gen stage because maybe you didn't know what they were, because it it's a new thing to collect for, and there's other people who have this knowledge and they're seeking out different games, and you don't quite know which ones are exactly going to be rare yet. By the older generation stage, people know. Like, I could make a video and give you a list of the top 5 rarest or some of the uncommon ones. These lists could possibly change a bit, but for the most part, um, the more sought after games and the rare games have been established at this point. And you're going to find these games um, on, Kijiji and Craigslist and thrift stores and yard sales and a lot of the same places like the used game stores that you found the last gen. But you're going to notice maybe some of them are making their way into a display case or behind the counter because they stand out as above average or above average in value, and there's other people looking for them now, and those are the ones to pick up. So if you didn't pick them up before, like I said, now is the time to get them before they hit the final stage, which is retro. Once they hit retro, that's where they become collectible and the value really goes up. So when you're collecting for retro games, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, a lot of times the best place to find the deals is online on eBay. Even Amazon sometimes, although I find Amazon listings to be more expensive than eBay from my experience. But that doesn't mean don't look there. You can still find stuff there. And there's other auction sites and sites where people buy and sell stuff. But now it's kind of like you really got to find someone who doesn't know what they have, because the attention has been brought to the forefront of a lot of different collecting communities. So a lot of people are in the know and they know what they have. And this is where they're popular. This is where people have a lot of nostalgia and people put down a lot of money for these games. Those are the 4 stages of video game collecting, the life cycle. Now, what comes next after retro? I don't know. We've seen the games sort of plateau a bit on the NES, where the values were spiking so high that it was just kind of hard for people to afford them to go any higher. So they dipped a bit, they've plateaued a bit. I don't know how much more that market's going to cool off, but we could talk about that in another video, because there is this theory of this collecting bubble, and the bubble's going to burst. Now, I don't think that's going to happen where I'm going to wake up one day and all of a sudden, the games that I have around me are just worthless trash. I can't see that happening. I think we just kind of got to watch and wait and see what happens with the NES. I think it will go down a little bit more over the next year or two, but not too much. And then eventually, slowly, over time, it will start climbing back up, and there may be some peaks and valleys here and there, but nothing like we've really seen in the past few years from about 2013 to 2016, where the prices just, skyrocketed. Later, players.